In the realm of the mysterious and secluded, Keith Reinhardt, a sports writer with aspirations of becoming a novelist, yearned for a break from the fast-paced world of a Chicago newspaper. Introduced to the enigmatic town of Silver Plume, Colorado, by an old acquaintance, Keith saw it as an ideal haven to embark on a sabbatical and breathe life into the novel that had always lingered in his dreams. Taking a leave of absence from his job and persuading his wife to grant him his venture, Keith set out on a 3-month retreat in this remote town, nestled amidst the mystifying peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Anticipating a transformative journey of self-discovery, Keith was drawn into a perplexing enigma that unfolded before him. Inspired by the tale of a man named Tom Young, who had mysteriously vanished a year prior, Keith's quest to unravel the truth took an unforeseen turn. As he delved deeper into the narrative, Keith unwittingly stumbled upon a clandestine secret, one that would ultimately intertwine with his own disappearance, leaving behind a haunting puzzle that tormented the inhabitants of Silver Plume and forever haunted his loved ones. Today, we embark on a journey into the realm of two inexplicable disappearances, one that eventually finds resolution and another that remains shrouded in impenetrable darkness. Now, let us delve into the disappearance of Keith Reinhardt. Silver Plume, Colorado, a place that epitomizes the essence of a small town hidden away in the heart of nature's embrace. Nestled in Clear Creek County, among the towering peaks of the Rocky Mountains, Silver Plume stands as a former mining settlement steeped in tumultuous history. Once home to over 2,000 inhabitants, it was ravaged by a cataclysmic fire and a devastating avalanche, coupled with the passing of new legislation that gradually thinned the town's population. Though a few steadfast individuals remain, by the late 1980s, Silver Plume numbered just over 100 souls. Presently, that count has crept closer to 200, yet it remains far from leaving its mark on the world. With its tranquil existence cradled within the Clear Creek Valley, life in Silver Plume exudes serenity and an unhurried pace. UncoverColorado.com aptly describes it as living in a ghost town, where only a handful of businesses adorn the main street. However, visitors are not drawn to Silver Plume for its commercial offerings. Instead, the allure lies in the boundless opportunities for hiking, fishing, skiing, and other outdoor adventures that call those who crave the challenge of the untamed mountains. Situated at an elevation exceeding 9,000 feet, Silver Plume offers a hiatus for those seeking solace from the noise of modern existence. And for Keith Reinhardt, it was precisely this isolation and tranquility that enticed him. Keith had lived a hectic life, toiling for 22 years in the newspaper industry, primarily as a sports writer for the Daily Herald in Arlington Heights, Illinois, a suburb a mere 26 miles from the bustling metropolis of Chicago. At age 49, Keith experienced what some might term as a midlife crisis, a critical juncture that prompted introspection about his accomplishments and the dreams he had left unfulfilled. Having recently married Carolyn, his wife, and a proud father to 3 children from a previous marriage, Keith sought more from life, yearning for the adventures and possibilities that seemed to have eluded him with the passage of time. One of his aspirations was to author a novel, a lifelong dream that he felt compelled to pursue before it slipped away forever. Enter Ted Parker, proprietor of KP Cafe in Silver Plume, an old friend of Keith's. Through the conversation, Keith confided in Ted about the overwhelming stress of his frenzied existence, the weight of his age, and his desire to shed a few pounds and regain his vitality. Intrigued by the prospect of Silver Plume, a place offering a break from the chaos, Ted painted an enticing picture of a slower pace, a less hurried environment, the perfect sanctuary for a novelist seeking solitude and inspiration. For Keith, the decision to embark on this journey was relatively straightforward. He would retreat to Silver Plume, devoting a few months to writing, rejuvenating his spirit, and perhaps even exploring the majestic mountains that surrounded the town. However, convincing his wife, Carolyn, proved to be a daunting task. She harbored concerns about Keith's decision to distance himself from everything, including his family, in the pursuit of his dream. Yet, she did not wish to impede his journey or hold him back from the neglected aspirations that had long haunted him. After numerous conversations, some persuasion, and Keith's assurance that his absence would be temporary, Carolyn reluctantly consented. In fact, Keith proposed that once he had settled in Silver Plume, Carolyn could join him, immersing herself in the unique experience the town had to offer. Keith secured a 3-month leave of absence from the Daily Herald, and with plans taking shape, he made preparations to venture into the heart of Silver Plume. Uncertain about lodging and financial obligations, Keith became aware, likely through Ted Parker, that an adjacent building to the KP Cafe stood vacant, awaiting a new tenant. Recognizing an opportunity, Keith leased the space, envisioning a small antique shop that would sustain him financially while providing ample time for his writing. Packing his belongings and acquiring a new computer for his creative endeavors, Keith set off on his adventure. Little did he know that the very building he had chosen would unleash an inescapable wellspring of inspiration. Arriving in Silver Plume that summer, Keith discovered that Ted's descriptions had not exaggerated the allure of this quaint town. Despite the challenges of running his struggling antique shop, which failed to attract significant business, like most enterprises in Silver Plume, Keith remained undeterred. Conversely, his attempts at novel writing yielded meager results, with his gaze fixed upon a flashing cursor. In a world devoid of validation for the various theories surrounding Tom Young's fate, and with little confirmation about his intentions and travels, Keith Reinhardt persisted in his quest to write his novel and uncover the truth behind its enigmatic inspiration. However, as Keith delved deeper into his investigation, the mystery reached an unexpected resolution of sorts. On July 31st, 2 hunters stumbled upon a discerning scene in the mountains. A man's skeletal remains propped against a tree, accompanied by the skeletal remains of a dog. Promptly notifying the sheriff's department, the hunters guided them to the site, where forensic examination revealed that the remains had been there for approximately a year. Both the man and the dog displayed gunshot wounds to their skulls. Nearby, authorities discovered a backpack and a revolver. Subsequent forensic analysis confirmed the identity of the man as Tom Young and suggested that the gunshot may have been self-inflicted. The presence of the gun near the scene seemingly supported the conclusion of suicide, leading authorities to believe that Young's supposed plans to travel to Europe were merely a cover story. However, despite the official ruling, the people of Silver Plume harbored doubts. Some speculated that Tom may have encountered someone in the mountains who wrestled the gun from him and pulled the trigger. The fact that his loyal canine companion, Gus, also met a tragic end made it difficult for them to accept that Tom willingly would harm Gus rather than leave him behind. Nevertheless, law enforcement treated the case as a closed suicide, despite inconclusive ballistic tests linking the bullets to the gun found at the scene. While Keith Reinhardt initially found himself increasingly engrossed in the story, his own involvement took an abrupt and mysterious turn. Just a week after the discovery of Young's remains and the official ruling, Keith vanished, triggering one of the most perplexing mysteries and intensive search efforts ever witnessed in Colorado. Throughout the week following Young's discovery, Keith continued to inquire about him, simultaneously working on his novel. Curiously, Keith attended a party the night before his disappearance, where he spoke about West Virginia and expressed a desire to visit the state. The identity of a woman Keith conversed with at the party, known only as Greta or Gretchen, remained unknown, as did the content of their conversation. The following day, on the evening of August 7th, Keith left his antique shop, locked the door behind him, and strolled through town, informing acquaintances of his intention to hike up Mount Pendleton, a daring feat, considering the late hour and the 6-hour trek required. Most dismissed his plans as mere bravado, given his lack of supplies, appropriate clothing, and experience navigating the treacherous terrain. A sighting of Keith occurred around 4:30 p.m. as he headed toward the mountain, with his last official sighting placing him in front of the Buckley's General Store at 5:05 p.m. Here, he purchased a soft drink. Keith had informed friends that he would return around 10 o'clock p.m., a statement that defied logic unless he had no intention of attempting the mountain ascent. Concern mounted when Keith failed to open his shop the following morning, as the building's owner, Ted Parker, entered Keith's living area only to discover no sign of his presence. A newspaper lay beside Keith's computer, open to an article about Tom Young's remains. Strangely, Keith's unfinished novel remained on the computer, with its final lines deepening the mystery and heightening the concern for Keith's safety. Despite an exhaustive search involving helicopters, volunteers, search and rescue teams, tracking dogs, and law enforcement, encompassing over 125 searchers and more than 10,000 man-hours, no trace of Keith was found, not even a fragment of clothing. The search was ultimately called off, leaving behind a vast wilderness where a single man could easily vanish. Keith's sudden disappearance, compared with the unsolved mystery surrounding Tom Young, left the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department puzzled and grieving loved ones struggling to comprehend the circumstances. With little to go on in terms of clues or possessions, Keith's family vehemently dismissed the notion of him voluntarily abandoning his wife and children to start anew. Instead, they grappled with the belief that something went awry that fateful night in the forest. Despite the extensive searches, the vast expanse of natural wonder rendered it all too easy to overlook a solitary man lost amidst the majestic landscape. His daughter Tiffany, however, held a different perspective, suggesting that writers often immerse themselves in the stories that they write to better understand them. She proposed the idea that her father may have wanted to experience the act of disappearing firsthand to entice his writing. This belief was somewhat prevalent at the time, although with more than 30 years having passed, it seems unlikely that Keith's intention was to disappear permanently. Unless, of course, something went wrong that night in the forest, rendering him unable to return. One of Keith's sons believed that foul play must have been involved in his father's disappearance. He found it highly improbable that Keith, a devoted family man, would willingly abandon his loved ones. He later climbed the Pendleton Mountain, experiencing the emotional weight of being in the same place where his father had vanished or potentially still remains. Despite exhaustive efforts, including raising awareness, distributing flyers, appearing on national television shows, and consulting psychics, Keith's family was unable to uncover any new information or clues about his fate. Eventually, a plaque bearing a poem written by Keith was placed on the mountain as a marker and a memorial for the man who never returned to the town that inspired him. For the people of Silver Plume, Keith Reinhardt's disappearance became an enduring enigma. The coincidence of both Keith and Tom Young leasing the same building and meeting their respective fates in the surrounding mountains was too striking to dismiss. Some individuals in the town refused to accept the official ruling on Tom Young's death, let alone comprehend Keith's mysterious vanishing. The unidentified woman Keith was seen talking to at the party added another layer of intrigue. The nature of their conversation, if it held any secrets at all, remains unknown. The story possessed all the elements of mystery and intrigue that could captivate any novelist seeking to craft a compelling tale. However, in this case, the novel would forever remain unfinished, perpetuating the haunting mystery of what happened to Keith Reinhardt. Over the years, various theories have emerged, ranging from the possibility that Keith encountered an accident, succumbed to exposure, or fell victim to wildlife predators in the vast wilderness of Colorado. Others speculate that Keith orchestrated his own disappearance, seeking a fresh start away from the busyness and stress of his old regular life. Some even suggest that Keith and Tom Young stumbled upon something or someone in the mountain that posed a threat, leading to their respective fates. Presently, Keith would be turning 82 years old, but his whereabouts remains unknown. Desperate hopes linger within his family, yearning for answers regarding his fate. Despite the passage of time, the unresolved mystery continues to haunt everyone involved. Keith's disappearance represents a disconcerting case that evokes contemplation, a writer becoming lost in his own work to the extent of becoming part of it. The convergence of two men residing in the same space and experiencing similar outcomes, and the sorrow of an individual searching for them, only to vanish without a trace. While some view Keith's disappearance as an inexplicable enigma, others interpret it as a clear-cut case of an inexperienced hiker lost in the unforgiving wilderness of Colorado. Regardless of perspective, the fact remains that a family lost a father and a husband, leaving behind a void that perpetuates this sad and perplexing mystery. Three main theories have emerged over the years, progressing from the least plausible to the most likely. The first proposed that both Keith Reinhardt and Tom Young encountered someone or something on the mountain that led to their murders. However, the lack of evidence and the extensive search efforts conducted by numerous individuals in the area diminish the credibility of this theory. Another possibility is that Keith staged his own disappearance, intending to embark on a new life elsewhere. While understandable, considering his struggles and aspirations, the absence of any trace or activity from Keith in the years following his vanishing makes this theory less tenable. Lastly, it is plausible that Keith and Tom Young simply stumbled upon something or someone that posed a threat, leading to their respective fates. However, the absence of concrete evidence or substantial clues makes it challenging to support this theory definitively. The mysterious woman Keith was seen conversing with at the party remains an intriguing aspect of the case. However, without further information, it is difficult to ascertain her role or the significance of their discussion. Despite the numerous theories, the story of Keith Reinhardt's disappearance remains shrouded in uncertainty and speculation. Ultimately, the truth eludes us, and the haunting mystery of Keith's fate endures, leaving his family and those invested in the case yearning for resolution. The tale of a man vanishing and then disappearing himself is reminiscent of something that one would encounter in a movie. It possesses substantial material for those inclined to delve into, yet ultimately relies on conjecture and speculation. The allure lies in its mystery, but when reality seeps into the narrative, its appeal diminishes. Did Keith truly abandon his family, wife, job, and entire life to embark on a risky venture of starting anew? It takes a certain kind of person, and not in a positive sense, to accomplish such a feat. A person devoid of conscience, or with a blunted sense of it. This characterization doesn't seem to align with Keith's personality. Furthermore, we must consider Keith's aspirations to complete his cherished novel. Would he have forsaken this dream along with everything else? It appears illogical to me. Instead, it seems more plausible that he ventured into the same area where Tom Young was found to seek further inspiration in the forest and on the mountains. However, Keith's lack of experience, equipment, and planning might have resulted in a disastrous outcome. Now let's explore the final theory. If you have never hiked in a densely wooded and mountainous area, you cannot comprehend the overwhelming nature of it. Having lived in the mountains myself, I frequently hear stories in the news about individuals, even experienced hikers, getting lost in nearby parks and forests. When disoriented and uncertain of one's path, panic sets in, intensifying as daylight fades. Today, most people bring GPS units, weapons, and communication devices, although the wilderness often hampers cell phone signals. In contrast, Keith set off from Silver Plume with nothing but the clothes on his back and perhaps a can of soda. These preparations are insufficient for a nighttime hike into the mountains, even for a seasoned hiker familiar with the area. Keith's background suggests that he was a city person working in the Chicago suburbs, without prior experience in such endeavors. The mountains of Clear Creek County host several predators, including black bears, bobcats, elk, and mountain lions. Considering the isolated location and the dense forest cover, it is plausible that their numbers are higher than in more frequented areas. Search teams describe the area as perilous, with sharp slopes, rocks, and treacherous cliffs. One can easily envision Keith getting injured or even killed by wildlife or the hazardous terrain. In darkness, the chances of survival diminish further. The search for Keith was akin to searching for a needle in a haystack, assuming he was still alive. If he had fallen into a cavern or off a cliff, locating him would have been nearly impossible. He might have been unconscious, tucked away in a remote and obscure spot within the vast expanse. The lack of supplies also impeded his ability to leave behind any trace. Although I'm drawn to the intrigue of a compelling mystery, this particular case seems more focused on perpetuating a legend than confronting the probable reality. For law enforcement, search teams, and many who have scrutinized the case, the likelihood of Keith returning on his own after venturing into the wilderness at night is slim. The disappearance of Keith Reinhardt represents a sorrowful tale of a man's quest to find himself, resulting in the loss of everything. For some, it will always revolve around foul play, despite the absence of evidence. While it cannot be definitively ruled out, for others, it serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of venturing into the wilderness unprepared and inexperienced. Even after 30 years, Keith's family continues to wonder what became of him. While there is a glimmer of hope that answers may surface someday, the realization remains that the forest might conceal dark secrets. After 3 decades, if Keith did enter into the forest and became lost, injured, or met an untimely end, there may be little, if anything, left to discover. If you've enjoyed this content from Universe of Mystery, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new content. Welcome back to A Universe of Mystery, as we detail another engrossing story from the vast expanse of our world. Today, we plunge into the enigmatic story of James Griffin, a tale nestled in the wilds of Washington State, a narrative that beckons to all lovers of nature, hiking, and the great outdoors. James Griffin, at the age of 60, was an inhabitant of Port Angeles, Washington. Those who knew him would describe him as a devoted individual. His heart echoed with the rhythm of the trails, and hiking was his solace. But fate threw a curveball when James, a laborer by profession, met with an injury to his foot. Yet, his spirit remained undaunted. Originally hailing from Michigan, James found a newfound love for the Washington state terrain. The magnificent Port Angeles isn't just a picturesque town, but it's also the gateway to the enchanting Olympic National Park. For those unfamiliar, let me paint a picture. The Olympic National Park is nature's masterpiece, a land where meticulously maintained trails stretch out, some even paved to perfection, leading explorers to mesmerizing destinations. Amongst the many wonders of the park, James had a particular fondness for its therapeutic hot springs. With his injured foot, these springs were more than just a natural wonder, they were his sanctuary. He would often find solace by soaking his feet, letting the warmth ease his pain. As winter cast its frosty veil on December 22, 2014, James sought the comforting embrace of the springs. Despite the chill, he intended to make a brief visit, absorb the tranquility, and then return home. While the park did offer camping spots, it required prior reservations and paperwork. But on this day, James had a simple day-long hike planned. That fateful morning, he texted a friend, hinting at his beloved destination. His friend, knowing James's love for the springs, wished him an enjoyable trip. By around 10 a.m., James, in his Subaru Outback, was en route to Olympic National Park, a place where he proudly held an annual pass. And so, with a heart full of adventure, James set forth towards the trailhead, completely unaware of the mystery that awaited him. Now, let's delve deeper and uncover the enigma of James Griffin's journey. The specific trail stands out for its meticulous upkeep. For the most part, it's impeccably paved, providing clear passage, even across challenging terrains. It's not one of those ambiguous paths where one wrong turn could leave you disoriented. This trail is undeniably prominent, ensuring even the novice hiker won't lose their way. Reports suggest that James embarked on this trail around 10 in the morning. However, as time went on, the tone of our story shifts. Christmas Eve arrived, a time of merriment and gatherings. James was expected at a festive dinner, yet, as the clock ticked, James was nowhere to be found. Concern gripped his family when Christmas morning dawned and there was still no word from him. Arriving at James's residence, they found his dog, seemingly distressed, having been left alone for an unsettling number of days. This was completely out of character for James. Concern quickly spiraled into panic. Following discussions with James's acquaintance, including the friend he had last texted, the family deduced that his last known location was the Olympic National Park. They promptly alerted local law enforcement about his mysterious disappearance on that fateful Christmas day in 2014. Local authorities collaborated with the Park Service, bringing them up to speed about the missing James Griffin. It was presumed that he might have ventured towards the hot springs, a place he often frequented. And, in a serendipitous twist, one park ranger, recalling the description of James's vehicle, remembered spotting a similar one stationed at the trailhead parking lot leading to the hot springs. The pieces of the puzzle started to come together, but the heart of the mystery remained. Upon arrival at the park's trailhead, investigators were met with an eerie sight. James's vehicle remained stationary, untouched since his journey began. A search of the car yielded a seemingly ordinary receipt from Safeway, dated December 22nd, time stamped at 10:20 a.m. It recorded James's purchase of Folgers instant coffee and, curiously, a Tootsie Roll. While seemingly mundane, these items painted a vivid picture of the beginning of James's fateful hike. Eagerly, the search team pressed on. Their voices echoed off the surrounding foliage as they called out for James, hoping for any sign of him. The trail remained as prominent and clear as always, but James was nowhere to be found. However, an intriguing breakthrough awaited. After a thorough review of surveillance footage, they identified vehicles that had been parked concurrently with James's. One such vehicle belonged to a couple who recounted a fateful encounter with James at the hot springs. They recalled he was in high spirits, sharing beverages with them. The couple noted seeing him later preparing to head back down the trail, backpack in tow. The trail, a mere 2-mile trek, with its gentle slope leading back to the parking area, shouldn't have posed a challenge. But as the rangers retraced his steps, a chilling discovery awaited. About a half mile from the parking area, near a creek off the trail, they found James's backpack. Concealed with a towel and propped against a log, its contents seemed untouched: a can of Coca-Cola, a cup, and even a cigarette butt of James's preferred brand. Strangely, they also found a mountain meal, a prepackaged survival food, untouched, despite the stove and fuel found in his backpack. Intriguingly, a camera nestled within his belongings provided an additional layer of mystery. The film, once developed, showcased scenic shots typical of a nature lover. However, the last two shots deviated from this pattern. Instead of the meticulously framed beauty one might expect, they seemed almost random. One showcased dense shadow foliage across the creek, the other a boulder-strewn stretch of the creek. What was James trying to capture? And then there's the creek. On the other side of where James's belongings were found, the terrain becomes incredibly steep. This region of Olympic National Park is synonymous with relentless rain, making the territory not just challenging, but potentially treacherous. So, with these new details in hand, the quest to unravel the mystery of James's disappearance continues. What might have been a routine hike in one of the world's rainiest regions turned into a perplexing enigma. This backdrop set the scene for a confounding search. Upon finding James's backpack with no trace of James himself, the authorities ramped up their efforts, even getting James's family involved. They introduced James's dog, known for its close bond with him, to the site, hoping it would lead them to him. The attempt, however, was futile. Undeterred, park rangers deployed 3 separate canine teams in the subsequent weeks. Despite the expansive search, they found no trace of James. The relentless rain, characteristic of the area, coupled with the ensuing dense fog, hampered the efforts considerably, leading to a scaled-down search. Only 6 personnel, paired with 3 canine units, continued to search for James. Surprisingly, about a month after his disappearance, on January 25th, one team made an unexpected discovery. On a steep incline opposite the creek, considered improbable terrain for James due to his known foot injury, they found a Tootsie Roll wrapper. James's recent purchase receipt corroborated this find. Further up, a devastating discovery awaited: James's body lying near a log. Bizarrely, there were no injury marks or signs of trauma, and he seemed to be fully dressed. After a forensic examination, the results only deepened the mystery. The coroner identified the cause of death as hypothermia, labeling it accidental. This verdict raised many questions. Why would James, equipped with a coat and seemingly prepared for the cold, sit by a creek if he felt hypothermic? Why would he cross the creek and ascend 1,700 feet on a challenging incline, despite a debilitating foot injury? Furthermore, the earlier involvement of canine units failed to detect any scent of James. Only by sheer chance did the team decide to explore uphill, and even then, the dogs only acknowledged the presence of a body when virtually on top of him. The circumstances of James's final moments, from the inexplicably missed scent to his mysterious uphill journey and Tootsie Roll wrapper, leave us with more questions than answers. Olympic National Park boasts lush, dense greenery, a backdrop to James's puzzling tale. Imagine a man positioned to prepare a meal by the creek, only to traverse it and then journey uphill, seemingly just to eat a Tootsie Roll. One might wonder if it was even James who consumed the candy, or perhaps someone or something else. Oddly, the coroner's report adds another layer of mystery. The documented time of death is January 25th, the very day James was discovered, despite him being missing for 30 days. In such conditions, one would expect some level of decomposition, but surprisingly, James's body seemed unaffected. Furthermore, tests revealed no trace of drugs or alcohol in his system. The situation seems inexplicable. A man on disability decides to venture half a mile from his vehicle, sets out to make a meal, and then is possibly interrupted. What could have prompted such a man to cross a creek and ascend steep, rugged terrain, only to meet his end from hypothermia next to a log, apparently an entire month later? It's a perplexing case. The official report states James's death was accidental, caused by hypothermia. The theory suggests James deviated from the well-maintained path, consumed a Tootsie Roll, and then ascended further and met his fate a month after his disappearance. The narrative is baffling, and I'm eager to know what others think. Could James have been coerced uphill by an external entity or force? And if so, why does his body show no evidence of distress or trauma? And where was he for the duration of those missing 30 days? I'd appreciate insights and theories, as this case leaves me with more questions than answers. Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the captivating and enigmatic wilds of Idaho, a puzzling tale of a young man's sudden disappearance continues to intrigue both authorities and the public alike. Terrence Woods Jr., a talented filmmaker with an adventurous spirit, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a plethora of questions and speculations. Today, we embark on a journey deep into this chilling story, uncovering the known facts and various theories surrounding his mysterious disappearance. But beware, this tale is not for the faint-hearted. As we venture into the eerie unknown, you may find yourself questioning everything you know about reality. Join us now as we delve into the heart of this enigmatic tale, retracing the steps of Terrence Woods Jr. and attempting to piece together the puzzle of his vanishing. As we navigate the twists and turns of this haunting mystery, we will confront the limits of our understanding and grapple with the chilling possibility that some secrets are simply too strange, inexplicable, and terrifying to ever be revealed. Terrence Woods Jr., a passionate filmmaker from Maryland, was known for his dedication to the film industry and had an impressive resume working on various documentaries and television shows. However, the events that unfolded in the fall of 2018 cast a shadow over his promising career, leaving those who knew him shocked and confused. In that year, Terrence found himself employed by Raw TV, a British production company tasked with creating a documentary series for the Discovery Channel called Gold Rush. The series followed adventurous gold miners as they braved the wilderness of Idaho in search of fortune and glory. Excited by the challenge and eager to explore the great outdoors, Terrence was the perfect fit for the project. The Idaho backcountry, known for its breathtaking landscapes and untouched beauty, also harbors a darker side, with tales of supernatural occurrences, mysterious disappearances, and eerie encounters. As Terrence and the television crew ventured into this remote and haunting landscape, they were well aware of the challenges they would face. The terrain was treacherous, the weather unpredictable, and the locations they sought were often difficult to access. Yet they pressed on, determined to tell the story of the region's gold mining past. It was amidst this adventure and exploration that the inexplicable events on October 5th, 2018 unfolded, forever altering the lives of those involved and casting a dark shadow over the Idaho wilderness. On that fateful day, the crew was exploring the Penman Mine, a site known for its hazardous conditions and ghostly lore. Little did they know that the eerie atmosphere surrounding them would soon give way to a far more sinister reality. After breakfast and a final equipment check, the crew set off towards the Penman Mine, eager to capture the haunting beauty of the abandoned site on camera. As they made their way through the dense forest, Terrence appeared to be in good spirits, chatting and joking with his colleagues while navigating the challenging terrain. The camaraderie among the team members kept morale high despite the demanding work and long hours. As the day went on, they captured stunning footage of the Penman Mine's decaying structures and eerie tunnels. By late afternoon, as the sun dipped towards the horizon, casting a golden light over the Penman Mine, the crew began packing up their equipment to return to the base camp. Unexpectedly, Terrence stepped away from the group and sprinted downhill through the forest, leaving his stunned colleagues behind. Without any warning, Terrence vanished into the wilderness, leaving his fellow crew members shocked and confused. They immediately alerted the authorities and began a frantic search, but despite their efforts, Terrence seemed to have disappeared without a trace. The suddenness and inexplicability of Terrence's disappearance sent shockwaves through the crew and the nearby community. An extensive search and rescue operation involving local authorities, volunteers, and the FBI was launched, which is rare because the FBI only gets involved in missing person cases if foul play or a crime is suspected. But still, no sign of Terrence was found. During the search, peculiar details emerged. Terrence's cell phone was discovered in his backpack near the spot where he started running, and his belongings, including his car keys and wallet, were scattered along the path that he took. These strange clues only deepened the mystery, leaving many to wonder if there was more to the story than meets the eye. Complicating matters further, the Penman Mine had an area with poor cellular reception, making communication and coordination during the search extremely difficult. As time passed, the search operation was scaled back, but local authorities continued to investigate leads and the potential sightings of Terrence. Throughout this distressing ordeal, Terrence's family in Maryland struggled to come to terms with the baffling circumstances surrounding his disappearance. The family of Terrence Woods Jr., left with countless questions and no answers, desperately sought to understand what could have happened to their beloved son and brother. As the investigation continued, they enlisted the help of private investigators and reached out to the media, hoping to generate new leads to keep Terrence's story in the public eye. Despite their efforts, as time passed, the search for Terrence slowly faded from the headlines, replaced by other news stories. Yet, the mystery of his disappearance continued to haunt those who knew him and those who had followed his stories from afar. As the months turned into years, the unanswered questions only multiplied, leaving behind a web of enigma and uncertainty. Numerous theories and speculations swirled around Terrence's vanishing. Some suggested the possibility of foul play, while others wondered if he had suffered a sudden mental breakdown in the eerie wilderness. There were also speculations of encounters with the paranormal in the ghost-ridden Penman mine. However, none of these theories could be conclusively proven. Despite the dedication of volunteers and family members, the search for Terrence yielded no concrete evidence. With each passing day, the hope of finding answers grew dimmer. As the anniversary of his disappearance approaches, the enigma still captivates the public imagination. Theories continue to evolve, but those who knew Terrence remain steadfast in their belief that he would not willingly abandon his loved ones. The haunting tale of Terrence Woods Jr. serves as a reminder that some mysteries may remain unsolved, leaving us to ponder the chilling possibilities and question the enigmatic truths hidden in the wilderness. Despite numerous theories and exhaustive investigations, no concrete evidence has ever emerged to explain the baffling disappearance of Terrence. The questions keep piling up, and with each passing day, the hope of finding answers seems to slip further away. What compelled Terrence to venture into the wilderness that day, leaving behind everything he knew? Was he the victim of a tragic accident, or caught in a sinister plot? Or did he stumble upon something deeply chilling, something that defies rational explanation? As we conclude our journey into this enigmatic tale of Terrence, we are left with a haunting reminder that some mysteries may forever remain unsolved. Like the wilds of Idaho, the human psyche is vast and unpredictable, concealing secrets that might forever elude our understanding. We can only hope that one day the truth will come to light, bringing closure to Terrence's family and friends, and finally putting rest to the haunting questions that shroud his disappearance. Until that day arrives, the story of Terrence Woods Jr. will continue to be whispered in hushed tones, serving as a chilling reminder of the thin line that separates what we know from the unknown, the ordinary from the extraordinary, and the familiar world from the enigmatic shadows that linger just beyond our grasp. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content. On April 6, 2017, 22-year-old Jacob Gray went missing while traveling on the Salduc Hot Springs Road in the Olympic National Park of Washington State. His whereabouts remain unknown until August 10, 2018, when his body was discovered in Hole Lake, located within the Daniel J. Evans Wilderness area of the park. The location was 15 miles away from his belongings and at an elevation of 5,300 feet. This is the story of Jacob Gray. Jacob Gray, a native of Santa Cruz, California, embarked on a solo bicycle trip from Port Townsend, Washington on April 5, 2017, hauling a fully loaded trailer of camping equipment. His ultimate destination was the Daniel J. Evans Wilderness and Olympic National Park in Washington, before continuing eastward. However, on April 6th, Gray's bicycle, trailer, and most of his belongings were found approximately 6.5 miles up Salduc Hot Springs Road, a picturesque route named after the Indian term for sparkling waters. An unusual discovery was made. A bow was lying on the ground, and arrows were embedded in the ground and protruding from the back of the trailer, but there was no sign of the bike's owner. Jacob Gray's bicycle had a unique backstory. It was a promotional bike won by his father, Randy, at a contractor show. As the son of a house builder, Gray was skilled with a saw and constructed a plywood rack behind the seat to secure 2 milk crates side by side. The bike's flat pedals were suitable for his running shoes or hiking boots, and while it wasn't built for speed or looks, it was practical and efficient, much like a pickup truck. When it came to camping gear, Gray had a preferred shopping destination, the Goodwill store in Port Townsend, Washington. There, he gathered the items for his journey. Despite the harsh weather conditions that characterized northwestern Washington in the early days of April, Jacob, a skilled surfer who had grown up on the beach, remained undeterred. He had a deep connection with the water, which energized him in all its forms, whether he was surfing on it or simply swimming in it. According to his father, Randy, Jacob's love for the water had been cultivated from a young age, and it was evident in the way he fearlessly rode the waves, regardless of weather conditions. Despite the challenges posed by the harsh weather, Jacob's enthusiasm for his trip remained unwavering. There were a few reported sightings of Jacob, but they were not very helpful in locating him. However, some of the sightings seemed credible. For instance, a man claimed to have seen Jacob twice in Indian Valley and along Crescent Lake on April 5th. The next day, a woman reported seeing a man towing a red trailer climbing Fairholme until 1 o'clock in the morning. Later that same morning, another woman passed Jacob as he was riding up the Salduc Hot Springs Road, which was about 2 miles from the 101. Later that afternoon, the same woman noticed Jacob's rig on the side of the road, which was 6.5 miles upriver from the 101. She was curious enough to snap a quick photo of the abandoned contraption, which was a flash of red and yellow against the green of the forest. However, it wasn't a good place to camp or stash a bike for long, as it was highly visible, not 10 yards from the road and only 20 yards from the river. Despite these sightings, Jacob's whereabouts remain unknown. A ranger had recalled seeing the bike and gear, but didn't think much of it, assuming that the rider was on a short excursion on foot. This wasn't uncommon in the area, since touring cyclists were a common sight, and Jacob was the first of many to come. It was evident that someone, possibly Jacob, had been organizing gear, as there was a poly tarp spread out surrounded by camping equipment. However, what caught the ranger's attention were 4 arrows stuck in the ground in an east-west line near the tarp. While going missing isn't a crime or an emergency for individuals over the age of 18, a person isn't considered missing until someone reports them as such. In this case, nobody had reported Jacob missing at all. It was rare for a cyclist to vanish, unlike hikers and runners. However, the fact that the bike remained untouched for most of the day piqued the ranger's curiosity. On the afternoon of April 6th, Ranger John Bowie searched the area around the bike, hoping to find any clues. He wondered if the cyclist had gone to the river to filter some water or hitchhiked to the hot springs. But if he had slipped and fallen into the sub-40-degree weather, he would surely have succumbed to the elements. The following is the actual missing persons dispatch call to park rangers.
That's 741 Ron on North Point.
741 Ron.
I've got a bicycle that has went off the Salduc Road about mile marker 7, and I can't find anybody around it. You might want to send a ranger up here so we can see what's going on.
Copy, thanks for the info. 1630.
741 Ron, 611. 741 Ron, this is Echo 8 on North Point. I'll head that way. Is that bicycle down the bank a ways, or is it easy to get to?
It's easy to get to. It's got a little carrier on the back of it, too. It looked like it crashed off the road.
Okay, so it didn't look like maybe somebody hit it there so they can go off for a hike.
It doesn't look like anybody's hit it. It looks like he just went off the road. I'm going to stay here until you get up this way.
Okay, I'll be coming over from the Ella.
741 Ron.
When Ranger Bowie stumbled upon the bike and trailer, his heart sank as he feared the worst. However, To his relief, they were in excellent condition, fully operational with no signs of damage or malfunction. The trailer was loaded with a ton of equipment, which indicated that the owner had come fully prepared for his adventure. Despite the reassuring state of the bike and trailer, the Rangers couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling that something wasn't right. Their worst fears were confirmed when they scoured the Sal Duck Hot Springs Resort, and no one had seen the owner. They suspected that he may have fallen into the river, but they had to keep searching to be sure. On that fateful Friday, Ranger Ray stumbled upon Jacob's wallet, ID, and a list of phone numbers. It confirmed the owner's identity, but it also heightened their concerns for his safety. Ray immediately contacted Jacob's sister, Mallory, and upon hearing the news, she implored Ray to call their parents in Santa Cruz right away, hoping they could help in the search and bring Jacob home safely. All signs seemed to point to the river as the likely location of Jacob's disappearance. The Olympic National Park Rangers concluded that he may have slipped and fallen into the water while trying to filter it into his camelback. They planned to search the river more thoroughly when the water levels went down in the summer. Jacob's mother, Laura, had spoken to him just a few nights before he set out on his journey. She knew that he was excited to embark on a cross-country tour to visit his brother in Vermont. Jacob had even mentioned that he might take 2 years to complete the trip, working on jobs and seasonal work along the way. When Jacob's mother reached out to the Rangers for help, they explained that their park was extremely understaffed and overburdened. The park covered an area that was 200,000 acres larger than Yosemite and received almost 4 million visitors each year. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts in 2013, nearly 2/3 of their law enforcement personnel had been transferred to other parks and not replaced. To compound their already overloaded situation, within a week of Jacob's bike being found, there were 2 other incidents in the park, a plane crash and another missing person. The Rangers were stretched thin and simply didn't have the resources or personnel to conduct a full-scale search for Jacob. It was a heartbreaking situation for Laura and Jacob's loved ones, who were left feeling helpless and frustrated by the lack of support from the park authorities. Randy, Jacob's father, dropped his hammer gun and threw his wetsuit into his truck when he heard the news. Rangers told him the bike was found near the river, and Randy had a sense he'd be searching the swift water. He picked up Mallory and sped north, driving the 1,000 miles from Santa Cruz straight through. When Randy and Mallory arrived at the park, 5 days had already passed since the Rangers first discovered Jacob's abandoned bike. Other family members and friends, including Jacob's mother Laura, flew into SeaTac and drove to the park for what ended up being a tragic search and rescue mission. The family was surprised to learn that no Ranger-assisted search had been launched yet. Unfortunately, national parks operate like sovereign countries, and search and rescue personnel from outside the park must be requested by park officials to initiate a search. Jacob's bike was discovered just 40 feet away from the river, which was 40 feet wide at the high water mark. On the other side of the river is Olympic National Forest, which is under a different jurisdiction. Unlike national parks, national forests operate under the county model, and the Cullum County Sheriff's Department is responsible for search and rescue there, which is only a stone's throw away from the park. Randy and Danny suited up and entered the river, but they sensed lethargy from the park officials and decided to take matters into their own hands. The family demanded an intense search, and Ranger Ray agreed to their request. Randy searched behind waterfalls, in deep holes, and under log jams, while Mallory kicked through ferns, looking for any evidence. The family was surprised to find that the park had not requested any outside assistance, such as dog teams or aircraft from Woodley Island Naval Air Station. Randy bushwhacked through thick brush and thorny devil's club in the rain, suffering from trench foot due to wet socks. Despite his physical discomfort, he remained determined to find his son alive. Surprisingly, the Coast Guard, based in Port Angeles, was not requested for assistance, nor were aircraft from Woodley Island Naval Air Station, which has been known to assist with some Olympic Park searches. Time was of the essence in the search and rescue operation, and the delay of 5 days and the lack of assistance from neighboring agencies greatly reduced the chances of finding Jacob alive. It was a devastating realization for the family, who were left feeling let down by the system and desperate for answers. After the discovery of the bike on April 6, 2017, the Clallam County Sheriff's Office conducted a search the following day with the help of approximately 30 people and dogs, but their efforts were fruitless. Olympic Mountain Rescue was called in nearly a week later on April 12th, and during their search, they found evidence suggesting that someone had exchanged hiking boots for running shoes, walked towards the river, and slipped and had fallen into it, leaving a mark on a mossy rock further downstream. There were signs the individual may have attempted to climb out. However, a state fisheries biologist was assigned to look through the log jams in the river instead of swift water search and rescue. On April 13th, the search for the individual became a search for a body instead of a live cyclist, and dog teams were brought in. 2 cadaver dogs indicated a log jam where a corpse might be trapped, but after searching all log jams for 12 miles on both sides of the bike area, nobody was found. The search operation continued in Olympic National Park throughout the week, but on April 14th, the park transitioned to a limited continuous search, effectively ending the search by Olympic Rangers. After a period of over a year, specifically on the late afternoon of Friday, August 10th, 2018, a group of biologists embarked on a trip into the mountains to study marmots. During their expedition, they stumbled upon the remains, clothing, and gear of Jacob Gray. The discovery was made at the top of a ridge located above Hole Lake, approximately 5,300 feet above sea level, and at a distance of at least 15 miles from where he abandoned his bicycle. The location where Jacob's remains were discovered was not near any trail, and during the time of his disappearance, which was in April, the terrain would have been covered in snow and potentially prone to avalanches. The remains were found on a treeless ridge, which could have been visible from the air. The story of Jacob Gray can serve as a cautionary tale for other hikers and can help them be more aware and prepared for the potential dangers of hiking in the wilderness. It highlights the importance of being prepared, taking safety precautions, being cautious, and communicating plans with others before heading out on a hike. By taking these steps, hikers can minimize risks and enjoy a safer and more enjoyable hiking experience in the wilderness. If you've enjoyed this content from a universe of mystery, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming content.